Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I mean, they're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We talked about the Ohtani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game time decisions, only on Sports.
Hour number 3 officially underway right here on a Monday morning edition of the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159, right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Donnie and Davis breaking it all down. How are we feeling this morning, Davis? We energized after the first 2 hours. We got a lot to look forward to tonight, a lot more hot topics on the way. What are the vibes around the room right now?
The vibes are great, man. We are firing some bets on the NFL draft this morning. We got a full slate of NBA playoff games. We've got NHL playoff games going on. The Kansas City Royals have a winning record. Rashee Rice is probably going to be suspended 4 games per an Adam Schefter report that came out this morning. So honestly, to me, great. Increases the odds that the Kansas City Chiefs end up selecting A.D. Mitchell with the 32nd pick of the 2024 NFL Draft, which is honestly, when I fall asleep at night, that is what I'm imagining is A.D. Mitchell playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the vibes are good, Donnie. I'm not worried about 7'4" Cameroonian man's knees the way that I'm sure that was the first thing that came to you this morning.
Yep. Yeah, but look, easy to now. Granted, the Philadelphia Phillies just had an 8-2 homestand, which is crazy in April because usually it's like a 2-8 homestand where they try to recover in August and September. But I don't know if it really counts when you beat the White Sox at this point, as primarily a part of that homestand. We'll see how they factor it out. But again, tonight, me as a Sixers fan, going to be loving watching that game with the Knicks. But at this time, we always like to check in to see what the public is thinking about in our SportsGrid poll here for our Fade the Public at SportsGrid TV. The question today, Davis, pretty simple. Who had the most impressive Game 1 victory in the NBA this weekend? Now, there's 4 choices. One of those is other, which is actually only getting about 6% of the vote, which is great, which means we probably got some hot topics to deal with. The Bucks, Clippers, and the Timberwolves were the other 3 teams listed here. 33.7% say the Bucks. 31.4% say the Clippers. The T-Wolves, 29%. We got a close race here between the Bucks, Clippers, and the T-Wolves.
We do, although I think that all of these answers are wrong. If I had to choose amongst these in the poll, it would definitely be the Clippers winning without Kawhi Leonard in what was supposed to be a hotly contested series. But how is the answer not the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they were really scrapping in that game? They're the number 1 seed, but they're the second youngest team in the NBA. No one in the starting lineup is older than 26 years old. The only guy on the entire roster who is over the age of 30 is Gordon Hayward. and they grit and grind out. Chet Holmgren basically playing in his rookie year gets a pretty much a game sealing block. How is that not the answer? How is the Thunder, basically they lose that game, they're nervous, like it's all bad, and then they end up pulling it out? How is that not the most impressive win?
Yeah, look, OKC just might move themselves back to Seattle, become the Sonics, and then we'll all vote for OKC being the Sonics, and we'll be excited about that victory. But I like the victory for OKC because I thought, Davis, it was instrumental where you're not really a playoff contender until you start to win a few series. Now, granted, they're the number one overall seed, but I love the fact they won game number one, because if they would have lost game number one, you'd say, oh, look at that, OKC. Boy, it's different from the regular season to get into the postseason. But if we're saying which is the one's most impressive and what I voted for, it was the Timberwolves at 29.1%, coming in third place right now. The reason I thought that was impressive is I wanted to see what we would be getting from the Suns here. Now, if the Suns came out in game number one, oh, look, they're back. The big three is here. Grayson Allen's playing very well. You get the point here. But from my perspective, I love the T-Wolves win. It was fantastic. I thought they needed that, and they blew out the Phoenix Suns. That was my most impressive one. So from voting in this poll, did you actually vote other, or did you pick a team here?
I picked the Clippers on the poll because I think that most people, like I bet if we go and look at all the expert surveys and everything, I think a lot of people expected with Kawhi Leonard not going to be available for game one, not only would the Mavericks have won that game, but the Mavericks should have been picked to win the series. The Clippers, I'm sure, heard all of that talk, and they have their own playoff experiences with one Mr. Luka Doncic. And I do feel like it's kind of one of these crazy things where we have sort of, it's, the Mandela effect where, oh yeah, Luka Doncic, he just destroys the Clippers in the playoffs. Like no one can do it. And then you go back and look and like, wait, actually the Clippers have beaten the Mavericks every time in a series that they've been together in the playoffs. But I thought the Zubac performance was huge. And I was, I'm going to look very disappointed in what the collective output of the Dallas Mavericks big men were. I don't think the Bucks win was really all that impressive because I don't even think the Bucks played that well outside of the Dame first half. It was just that every Pacers player was awful. I mean, Halliburton didn't even crack double digits in points or assists. He was brutal in that game. I mean, the first round of the playoffs in the NBA, we love the NBA playoffs and we really love the conference finals and the finals, but the first round is very rarely super competitive. And that's what we got in most of these games was, massive blowouts. Like the 76ers Knicks game was all right. The Thunder Pelicans game was pretty good, but it's just the nature of the way seeding happens in the NBA. Like you're going to have a lot of bad teams still playing. 20 teams are eligible for the NBA postseason in the end, like way too many teams.
Yeah, and it's the interesting part about this too is I love it. It almost feels like game number one of the NFL season, Davis, compared to game number two. It's like, ooh, that team really stinks. Even though we saw them play the entire regular season, we're looking for some bounce backs, which certainly are inevitable to happen. So let's just take a look at the poll here that we posted at SportsGrid, and it's the Bucks, Clippers, and the Timberwolves. So again, I voted for the Timberwolves in this spot, getting about 29% of the vote. But let me ask you this question: of the Bucks, Clippers, and the Timberwolves, who's more likely in their game number two to take a loss here between those three teams?
Oh, it's totally the Clippers, right? It's 100% the Clippers. It's Kawhi Leonard doesn't play again. Luka shows up, goes thermonuclear. They make some kind of lineup tweak. I mean, maybe it's starting Kleba. Maybe it's starting Derek Lively. Maybe it's starting Tim Hardaway Jr., but I don't think they will run back the exact same rotation in game two. And Luka is just too great of a player to go out like this. It's just now obviously a huge part of his statistics in game one it was total stat padding to make his overall cumulative playoff numbers, continue to look good. But there's a reason why the Clippers are the Clippers, which is it feels crazy, the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard era in Los Angeles, it's year 4. I mean, it still feels kind of new. Like, oh yeah, Kawhi just got traded to the Clippers. No, he's been there forever. We've seen these guys play and they've never been able to reach the mountaintop, mostly because one or both of them have been out so much time of injury. And you get into game two, let's say Kawhi's not available. You're still asking a ton out of role players. Terrence Mann had to play 39 minutes the other night. Norman Powell was their first guy off the bench, playing when James Harden was not in there. And those guys let's just be real, they're not as good as Kawhi Leonard. Not very few people are. And Russell Westbrook as your primary guard off the bench, like, yeah, he can have great games, but Russell Westbrook could also very easily have a 1 of 10 with 4 turnovers, no steals, no blocks, and that is going to shift things all the way towards the Mavericks as well.
When we look at the Bucks here, game number 2 coming up, because I don't think the Pacers can be any worse than what they showed here. And quite frankly, outside of Siakam, as we've been saying, nobody showed up at all. But Dame gets those 35 points in the first half, cruises in the second half, and doesn't score. What are we anticipating in game number 2? Forget about from the Pacers side, because it can't be any worse, but from Damian Lillard. Are we looking at a guy that goes, okay, Giannis is out again, I'll be the benefactor of this, shooting 25-plus times, launching 3 after 3 after 3? Do we see a great game number 2 out of Dame as well?
No, I don't think we will. I think that their defensive intensity, I think the Pacers' defensive intensity will all be about, okay, Middleton's got to beat us, Portis has to beat us, Lopez has to beat us. Very similar to what we saw in the second half, actually, in that first Bucks-Pacers game. And I actually think the Pacers, I think they're live to win this series. I would bet on them as underdogs on the money line in game 2. And maybe take a look at definitely take a look at the series price. I just feel like the Bucks without Giannis, it's just not, it's not quite right. They're not built to win games that way.
At SportsGrid, still time to get in and see if you want to fade the public here. Who had the most impressive Game 1 victory? Bucks, Clippers, and Timberwolves were the 3 teams, 33%, 31%, and 29% respectively. And then other, if you want to chime in and let us know which team you think was the best win in round number 1. That's about 6%. Major League Baseball played a lot this weekend. Let's preview what's going to happen on the Diamonds tonight. Come on back with us right here on the Early Line.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Throwbacks in white have now become the main uniforms in black and green as well. 4-game green.
Your contracts will be higher in 5 years because the ratings will be through the roof, people. Listen to me. Play games at 7 o'clock. Get more ratings. Make more money. It's simple, but somehow they're imbeciles that make this playoff schedule. I can't figure it out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
April baseball on deck right here for the Early Line, Sirius XM channel 159 on the SportsGrid network. It's Davis and Donnie. We spent a lot of time going over action for the NBA and also going over some other topics here. But now we flip it over to Major League Baseball. Today, by the way, there is a 1 o'clock game we're going to get to between Oakland and New York. But the game we're going to focus on right now, Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. That's Ross versus Jones. The FanDuel Sportsbook opened up this line overnight at a minus 130 price as a favorite towards Pittsburgh, currently sitting right now at a minus 142 price. And a total overnight was at 8, now down to 7.5. Two pitchers here in decent form to start the season here tonight, Davis, in this game between the Brew Crew and the Bucks.
Yeah, but are we going to see more than 59 pitches out of one Mr. Jared Jones? That's how many pitches that he got into his last start. I don't exactly know why that is, because in his starts before that, he was able to go into that 80, 85 range that you would expect from a younger pitcher. I probably would be on the over here on 7.5. I'm not really a believer in Joe Ross actually at all. His K number is 5.5. I would be on the under on that as well. Now, if you told me that I was getting 6 innings, even 5 innings of Jared Jones, I might actually would be tempted on over 6.5 strikeouts for him. But we've got a pretty long history of Joe Ross being a below league average or right at league average starting pitcher. He's been pitching in the major leagues since 2015, mostly for the Nationals. Actually has not pitched in the last has not pitched in the major league since 2021. I like this Pirates lineup. I think they've been one of the surprises of the young season. They've moved O'Neal Cruz up. He hasn't been striking out, 1,000,000,000% of the time. So I'm a little interested. Obviously, we've got some cold, wet, windy, Midwestern weather here that is impacting this one. But I do like the over on 7.5 runs here.
Yeah, it'd be about mid-50s during that game. Light wind blowing out to center field, but we're still waiting for that hitting weather to creep in. And again, here in the Northeast, where I'm at, it hasn't been too pleasant over the past week to week and a half. We'll see if that changes up sooner than later, because that does help those hitting statistics here. Let's go over to Tampa Bay, where we're not going to have to worry about any weather conditions, but typically runs to be scored, usually a little bit harder down there at the Trop. Skubal, the lefty, is going to be on the mound for the Tigers, going up against Zach Littell, who is a right-handed pitcher. If we look at the overnight line, slight favorite here towards Detroit at a minus 112 price. But now we're a de facto pick them on both sides. Minus 108 each way in a total that's listed at 7.5. Skubal, Littell, who's going to get the best of each other in this game between the Tigers and the Rays?
Yeah, look, Tarek Skubal has been awesome. He is a legitimate AL Cy Young Award nominee. I believe he's second in the odds to win that award right now. But the Detroit Tigers, they were a fashionable pick to win the division, a fashionable pick to, end up making a run in the postseason. And guess what? They still stink. Carson Kelly can't hit. Torkelson can't hit. Colt Keith can't hit. Javi Baez is pretty much the worst player in Major League Baseball who is playing every single day. Gio Urshela is on the IL. He can't hit. Parker Meadows can't hit. Matt Vierling can't hit. Zach McKinstry can't hit. None of these guys can hit. And you can't build an entire team out of like 3 above average starters, which they do have. Flaherty has been all right. Skubal, Mize, and Reese Olson have all been fine. We'll see what ends up happening. Kenta Maeda has been bad to start the year. We expect him to regress to normal. I'm all over. I am all over the Rays in this spot. It just feels like if you give me a pick 'em and most of the line is about the Tigers starting pitcher being the better half, I mean, yeah, you still got to score runs to win a game. And I'm just shorting the Tigers. Like pretty much every time we talk about the Tigers on this show or on Pharrell Coast to Coast, I'm going the other way because they can't hit, Donnie. They cannot hit the baseball.
Can't hit, you cannot win here. Let's get up to the Bronx for a 105 start this afternoon. Day baseball here. Oakland versus New York. That Sears, the lefty, will be on the mound for the Oakland Athletics, and then Carlos Rodon, the left-handed pitcher for the New York Yankees. This overnight line was a minus 260 price in favor of the Yankees. Down slightly here to minus 255 live number, but a total that opened up at 8 overnight as a total. That's still sitting at 8 across the board. Are we paying these crazy prices for the Yankees today in the Bronx?
Yeah, look, I'm not betting minus 245 money lines in April. That's just sort of a philosophical thing that I'm just not going to do in the baseball market. But there probably is some money to be made on Rodon stuff, assuming that he is able to, come back to something like his 2022 health. He's not striking anyone out this year. He's only got a 20% K rate. That's far and away the lowest number of his career. He's also walking a ton of guys, 12% walk rate this year compared to a career 9% walk rate. But what leads me to believe that he is probably getting closer to health and getting closer to his San Francisco Giants ability is he's only allowed a 37% hard hit rate. He's not allowing any line drives. He is getting, good distribution between ground balls and fly balls, much closer to what he did when he was a Giant and when he was a White Sox. I think he's probably going to get better results moving forward than he has gotten thus far. So if you wanted to bet, over on K props or Yankees first 5 or something like that, that would make a little bit of sense. But yeah, we're not paying minus 250 here on the early line in April baseball games. I'm not giving that out.
High number there, low number here on the West Coast. That's rotation number 971, 972, 938 first pitch. That's between the Orioles and the Angels. Suarez will be on the mound for Baltimore. You take a look at Detmers, the lefty, on the mound for the Angels. Overnight price minus 116 as a favorite towards LA. That's actually a little bit higher now at a minus 118 price, and a total across the board that sits at 8.5. Are we looking at runs on the West Coast, or can these pitchers stay in form in 2024?
No, we are all over. We are all over the Baltimore Orioles here. I just get like the opposite of the Tigers. I'm on the Orioles every single day. I'm against the Tigers every single day. The Orioles lineup is too good, and their lineup is too good even with Jackson Holliday. Gets called up. Dude, he has been brutal. He has struck out in 50% of his plate appearances. He's only taken 2 walks since getting called up. I have a feeling that he's going to end up getting sent back down for a little bit more seasoning in AAA. No big deal, though. If you just pretend that Colton Cowser is Jackson Holliday and Jackson Holliday is Colton Cowser, then, the grand plan for the Baltimore Orioles is all making sense.
A lot of good Major League Baseball here on a Monday. We'll keep those previews going next. But also, we just got done talking about Baltimore and Los Angeles. Mike Trout watch. Should we watch any sooner here? Is he going to have an MVP-type season? Will he even be in an Angels uniform by the time we play September baseball? Maybe that's the best thing to look forward to if you're an Angels backer this year. Goodness, what happened to that franchise? Let's talk more Major League Baseball coming up next, right here on the Early Line.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it, but the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Throwbacks in white have now become the main uniforms in black and green as well. 4-game green.
Your contracts will be higher in 5 years because the ratings will be through the roof, people. Listen to me. Play games at 7 o'clock. Get more ratings. Make more money. It's simple, but somehow they're imbeciles that make this playoff schedule. I can't figure it out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball tonight, live from Kansas City. Dave is certainly going to be up late for this one tonight. 7:40 start. We'll get right into it. Kikuchi, the left-handed pitcher, will be on the mound against Brady Singer, the righty, for Kansas City. Overnight, Slight favorite here towards Toronto, which is now shown a little bit higher at a minus 118 price point. A total that opened up at 8.5, now seeing 9 here. Kansas City would sing on the mound versus Kikuchi in Toronto. Who are we leaning towards in this game here, Davis?
Oh, come on. We're doing Kansas City Royals baseball here. 13-9. They are hitting the leather off the ball. No, they're not. I mean, they've got some guys who are all right. Perez is having a great season. My guy, Vinny P, is off to a hot fire start. Bobby Witt Jr. looking like he is worth every dollar of that 12-year contract. Not so sure about having Michael Garcia continuing to lead off every day. I'm hoping that we are going to get to the end of the Kyle Isbell experience. They probably will have a hard time with Yusei Kikuchi because he is so good at throwing his off-speed pitches for strikes. It's something that has a lot of major league teams in a real riddle when they face him. The teams that tend to do well against Kikuchi are fly ball hitting teams, which the Kansas City Royals are not. Kikuchi has only allowed 1 home run this year. That is a huge reversion to the mean from his career, where his fly ball to home run ratio has always been above league average, because when teams are able to square him up, they're really able to square him up. But he is off to really like kind of the best 4-game stretch of his career. This is a guy with a career 4.63 ERA who's down, in the low 2s right now. But I'm betting on my boys. I'm betting on the Royals right now. They're in a good run. And I mean, the Blue Jays, you want to talk about a team that is so disappointing, the peak of the Bichette Vlad era. They are so far away from that. Like, Vlad, what is his deal? Why does he just insist on hitting every ball directly into the ground? Like, does his dad not taught him that the ball is supposed to go up in the air, not down into the ground? It is one of the most mystifying things. He has that crazy 2021 season, and then it's just been nowhere close to that for the remainder of his career.
Need to get that launch angle back in his swing here. By the way, in this game between Toronto and Kansas City, 71 degrees at first pitch tonight with 18-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the center field. So maybe some baseballs will be landing in the fountains tonight. So we'll see what happens in that one. But again, lining that game up, should be a close one tonight. We'll see if Singer has the edge over Kikuchi. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies on the road after a successful homestand, going 8-2. They're now going to take on the Reds. Ranger Suarez has been really good as a left-handed pitcher this year for the Philadelphia Phillies, going up against Hunter Green. The total of this game opened up at 8.5, still staying at 8.5, but a slight favorite for the Phillies at minus 118 has now been risen to minus 122. Phillies Reds here.
Phillies Reds, the Hunter Green experience, look, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. He's definitely going to strike out 6 to 10 guys every single start. Might come with 7 earned runs, might come with 2 earned runs, might come with 3 home runs allowed, might come with no home runs allowed. He's one of these young guys who really is more of a thrower than a pitcher. He's got a lot of, he's a very young guy. He's just turned 24, so he's got a lot of time left to figure it out. I think he probably is a relatively bad matchup for the Philadelphia Phillies because they want to be up against guys who are more extreme fly ballers. No real opinion here on either side. I would probably lean the under, though. It just feels like more of a pitcher's game than a hitter's game.
Let's welcome back Bryce Elder here for the Braves, going up against Miami, and Ryan Weathers, the left-handed pitcher. Heavy favorite today in the Big A, a minus 205 price sitting here for Atlanta, and a total that's listed at 9.5. So we are expecting runs in this equation. Cool temperatures down there in Atlanta today, 60 degrees with a slight wind blowing out. Easy victory for those Braves, and those Braves bats certainly come alive today.
Yeah, I just said I'm not laying minus 250 in an April baseball game. might lay minus 205 here. I mean, the Miami Marlins, poor Craig Mish, got to cover this team. They stink. Ryan Weathers is walking, every guy he faces. Now, Bryce Elder has been no great shakes either. The issue with the Braves has been on the pitching side, though, not so much on the hitting side. I'd probably lean slight over here as a play.
By the way, Mets and the Giants out on the West Coast tonight, so the Mets will stay out there. It's going to be Quintana versus Wynn. Roughly a pick 'em here, minus 118, minus 110, depending on where you're shopping at, and a total listed at 8.5. Any expectations tonight quickly on the Mets and the Giants?
I always root for the Mets when it's a game of no consequence to me because I know all my friends here at SportsGrid are big on the New York Metropolitans. Let's see Lindor get some hits.
You want to talk some hockey? You came to the right place, people, on a Monday morning. Look, man, we're handicapping Major League Baseball, NFL Draft, NBA Playoffs, and now some hockey talk coming up next year on The Early Line.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it, but the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Throwbacks in white have now become the main uniforms in black and green as well. 4-game green.
Your contracts will be higher in 5 years because the ratings will be through the roof, people. Listen to me. Play games at 7 o'clock. Get more ratings. Make more money. It's simple, but somehow they're imbeciles that make this playoff schedule. I can't figure it out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He was like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Breaking it all down, that's what we do on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie Wrightside along with Davis Maddock. Now we bring in the guy that helps us out, the jack of all trades. It's FanDuel's Tom Vecchio. Tom, how was your weekend? And good morning here on a Monday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Rangers won yesterday. Everything is looking great. It's an awesome time to be a sports fan. We got action, the highest quality action for, next 2 months every day. I'm ready to roll.
It's great stuff here as we take a look at on Saturday. The Hurricanes, a 3-1 victory over the Islanders. The Bruins iced the Maple Leafs 5-1. Then we flip it over to a quadruple header on Sunday, which was the Lightning getting beat by the Panthers, the Rangers over the Capitals, the Jets over the Avalanche, and the Canucks over the Predators. So my question to you, Tom, is it just so easy in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Just bet the home teams, baby. 6-0.
Yeah, certainly what we saw from the NHL and the NBA yesterday with all home teams winning. Obviously, that's going to flip at a certain point. I think we saw some extreme outcomes with the 13 goals in Winnipeg. That's certainly going to trickle down as the series goes on. I wouldn't be surprised to see one or two of the games between the Rangers and the Caps and the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, one of those to end with like 7 or 8 goals. But that will certainly again start to trend towards the under 2-1 games, 3-2 games as the series go on.
I think you're probably right about that. We've got some more series starting tonight here on Monday night. We've got the Golden Knights beginning their series at the Dallas Stars. The Kings are going to be playing in Edmonton tonight for Game 1. Then Game 2 already in the Eastern Conference with the Islanders against the best team in the Eastern Conference, the Hurricanes. And then the Maple Leafs at the Bruins. Got any plays or any angles for us to be taking in these 4?
Yeah, let's go to the Maple Leafs taking on the Bruins. And, the Maple Leafs kind of got waxed in Game 1, but they played pretty well. Like, they outshot the Bruins. William Nylander, their second-best player, didn't play in Game 1 despite playing in all 82 games in the regular season. He didn't go in Game 1. So if he's out tonight, I'll look to Tyler Bertuzzi over 2.5 shots. That's sitting at plus 138. He's now up on the first forward line and on the first power play unit. Bertuzzi took Nylander's spot on that power play unit. So, add in a little bit of that desperation factor because they're already down 0-1 in the series. And if their second best player is going to be out, someone has to step up, and fill that offensive void essentially. So I'll look to Tyler Bertuzzi. I also think Wyatt Johnson over 2.5 shots for the Dallas Stars. Stars are my Stanley Cup pick as they were at the beginning of the season. 20-year-old who had a 30-goal season for the Stars. I think he's in for another great playoffs, just as we saw last year for them.
Let me ask you a question here about NHL betting come the postseason here. Because granted, there are some games we're going to see tonight, Toronto, Boston, New York, and Carolina. Nobody wants to go down 0-2, and that's for sure. Does that change your betting philosophy for one of those teams that needs the victory? I'm not saying because you need it, you win it, but does that change a strategy at all for you, Tom?
I'll certainly start looking to some unders. I would absolutely stay away from the regulation line, the 60-minute line, which is normally one of my favorite bets during the regular. Just a team to win in regulation, you get significantly better odds compared to their normal money line. But because so many of the games end up going to overtime, we have to shift away from that. We have to just stick with the money line, even if it's with a little bit of juice. You just think they have to come away with the win. So stick away from regulation, regular money line. And then we have to look at the shot markets because some of the shot markets are just 60-minute shot markets. They do not extend into overtime. So we also have to take that into consideration.
All right, so let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit here to the 2024 Stanley Cup odds. The Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket there. The Avalanche get a little bit of a ding after losing that 13-goal thriller to the Jets in Game 1, down at 13-1. We'll see what ends up happening in this market after the Golden Knights get their series started. Do you see anything exploitable here? I would assume it has to be exploitable if one conference is so top heavy there that there's got to be a Western Conference pick that should be drawing some of our attention.
Yeah, like you said, those three teams are all from the East. It's essentially going to cannibalize each other at a certain point. So I just got to stick with the Stars. They're plus 800. I got them before the season started at 10-1, 11-1, wherever it's sitting at. They're just the most complete team. They have the best forward group. They have the best defense. Can you say they have one of the top 2 or 3 goaltenders if Jake Onger is playing at a ceiling? Absolutely. But the system that they have, we will continue to look to there. While the Oilers have the top-end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in net. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
Flip it over to the NBA tonight. Triple header on deck. Late night action, 10 p.m. That's the Lakers and the Nuggets. The Nuggets have already beaten the Lakers here, covering as a favorite of about 6.5 in game number 1. Game number 2, similar type spread here. FanDuel Sportsbook, Tom, listed that as a -7 towards a favorite in the Nuggets, and a 223.5 total in this game. Same old Nuggets here, easily able to dispatch of the Lakers, or the Lakers put up a fight tonight for you?
I think they put up a little bit of a fight, and it's really got to come down to the defensive and rebounding effort. Denver took 102 field goal attempts in game 1 compared to the Lakers taking 79. The Lakers turned the ball over more. They got out-rebounded in both offensive and defense. So I think this has to be a big LeBron game from the defensive and rebounding side. So I'll take LeBron over 7.5. If we see Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jokic out there dominating the boards, this series is going to be over in 4 or 5 games. It's going to be super quick. And LeBron simply has to do more. So whether it's him giving up a little bit of the offense and, maybe to Austin Reeves, or it's D'Angelo Russell took a ton of shots in game 1, LeBron has to do more in other aspects rather than just pure scoring. So give me a rebounding prop from LeBron tonight.
I like that angle a good bit. We've also got another super interesting, I think probably for my money, the most interesting game on the board is 76ers Knicks game 2. We had, Embiid with the bloody knee bandage there in game 1. Jalen Brunson was brutal in the first half of that game, got much better in the second. I am inclined to like the underdog 76ers money line here. Do you have any angles for us to take in this game?
Yeah, I love the 76ers tonight. And the Knicks, in game 1, they shot 45% from deep. And not only just 45% from deep, 44% of the total shots that they made were threes. So both of those numbers are going to regress. They're not going to be hitting the threes at this high of a clip, and just the overall percentage of, twos compared to threes, that's not going to be sustainable throughout the rest of the playoffs. So I like the 76ers tonight. During the break, Donnie, you said that Maxey's maybe now questionable. That line's at 5.5, 6, wherever it might be. I will still side with the 76ers tonight. The Knicks are going to show that regression. They're going to slow the game down. And realistically, the Knicks had to come back in game 1 in that strong fourth quarter, and they just won it by 7 points or 7 points, whatever it was. So give me the 76ers tonight.
Yeah, it should be a fun one of those first two games here. And then we do have a triple header, as we said. Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers set the tip at 7 o'clock tonight. 5.5-point spread here for the Cavaliers, who dispatched Orlando. And quite frankly, a defensive effort stayed way under the total. We're now looking at a 203 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Are we looking at another slow down pace here for you, Tom? And also, who wins this game and covers?
I think the Cavs win this game. I'm not sure if they cover. Maybe it's just the inexperience from the Magic where they just did not look at all put together on offense in game one. Frankly, I don't know why Wendell Carter wasn't in the starting lineup when, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are out there having massive rebounding games for the Cavs. And, Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero simply can't do it all. So I think they need to have a traditional center out there. I think Wendell Carter needs to have a big game on the boards, or this series will be over probably in 4 games. I talked about it on a couple shows last week. I have the Cavs -1.5 in the series. So I guess that's all good. So I have to roll with the Cavs, but man, the Magic have to get it together and they have to do more when it comes to defense and especially when it comes to rebounding.
Yeah, I think all of that is, I think I'm with you. I don't hate Jonathan Isaac starting there. Okay, so before we get out of here, run me through your top props for the April 22nd card.
So we're going to stick with Tyler Bertuzzi. I also really like Leon Draisaitl for a goal tonight for the Oilers. He dominated them last year in the playoffs, the Kings, that is. 11 points in 6 games for the Kings in the playoffs, 6 points in 4 games in the regular season. He's an elite goal scorer, and normally we get him at, +110, +115. Tonight he's sitting at +155 for a goal. So I'll take a high variance market where we're getting better odds. Continue to look to there. LeBron with the over on the rebounds. 76ers, like you said, you like them on the money line. Maybe we put a little bit of sprinkle there, but I certainly like them with the points. And, maybe we throw a long shot with Lourdes Gurriel for home run against Lance Lynn tonight as well.
Ooh, how about that? A home run prop tossed in there. Let's see if it breaks down. Well, that's Tom Vecchio from FanDuel, the jack of all trades, breaking it all down for us. You want some NHL action? He's got it. You want some NBA action? He's got it. You want Major League Baseball action? He certainly has that well. Fantastic stuff out of Tom today. We'll talk him certainly once again with all the playoff mayhem here. But myself and Davis will continue. A little NBA action next. Don't go anywhere.
Talked about the Ohtani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it, but the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Throwbacks in white have now become the main uniforms in black and green as well for Game Green.
Your contracts will be higher in 5 years because the ratings will be through the roof, people. Listen to me. Play games at 7 o'clock. Get more ratings. Make more money. It's simple, but somehow they're imbeciles that make this playoff schedule. I can't figure it out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10+ years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Triple header tonight in the association. This is the early line, Sirius XM Channel 159, SportsGrid Network. Davis and Donnie on a Monday morning, breaking it all down. And we start tonight at 7 p.m. Then we have another game at 7:30. Then the nightcap, which is 10 p.m. Eastern. That's between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. Game number one, we saw much more of the same, Davis. A sweep in the regular season for the Denver Nuggets. A sweep last year in the playoffs by the Denver Nuggets. A victory over the Lakers in game number one. As we're taking a look, the opening number in this game was 6.5 as a favorite towards the Denver Nuggets. We're now seeing 7s, and also other outlets now reporting 7.5. A total at FanDuel that opened up at 223.5, still sitting at 223.5. What has to change in this game for the Lakers to A, cover, and B, have a chance at victory tonight?
Well, you can't let Nikola Jokic go for a 35-point triple-double. That would pretty much be step number one, is you got to have the best player on earth have, a B- game instead of an A- game. You need to not allow Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to feel comfortable firing three-pointers from the corner. You're not going to beat the Nuggets. KCP is a good shooter, not a great shooter. So he's just taking wide open looks. And if you look at the data and just any game where KCP is comfortable letting those 3-pointers fly, it means your defense is not doing a good job because you're letting the Nuggets get into their sets, get the shots that they want. And you've got to have a third Laker, whether it be Reeves, whether it be D'Angelo Russell, whether it be Rui, whether it be one of the guys off the bench, have a good offensive game, maybe even a great, for their standards, offensive game. Like if Rui hits 3-pointers in the first half, then the Lakers are totally drawing live. But if it's just LeBron, Anthony Davis pick and roll, LeBron ball screen, Anthony Davis on the nail, Anthony Davis trying to back down Jokic, even Anthony Davis trying to back down Aaron Gordon. Like Aaron Gordon is a crazy good defender. I feel like Gordon as the backup center is like such a key thing for the Denver Nuggets, and they don't really do it in the regular season, so it's not as famous as the Warriors' death lineup, but it's just as good, really. So you bring in Christian Braun or Peyton Watson as the fifth guy there with the starting unit when Nikola Jokic gets his rest, because the Jokic, another crazy thing about the Nuggets is the all bench units or the 3 bench guys and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic lineups. Those are huge winning lineups. I mean, that really doesn't happen for any team in the NBA where you win with 3 bench guys and 2 of your starters, but Jokic and Murray really are. They're just that good. It's insane how good Jokic is. To be honest, Donnie, I don't really give a snowball's chance for the Los Angeles Lakers tonight or in the series. The Nuggets it's the same way I feel about the Celtics and the Heat series. We're like, sure, the Heat have these battle-tested veterans and they have this great coach, but you still need the talent. The ball still has to go in the basket, right? And the Nuggets are just better at that than pretty much every team in the NBA.
Like, if we're looking at this, it's interesting to say this the least. Let's just say it's a 7.5-point line by game time. I don't actually think the spread comes into play tonight, which means the Lakers are either going to win this outright, or it's one of those games where the Denver Nuggets have the Lakers down by double digits in the third quarter, and it's like white flag time. Like, you know what? We're just not going to be able to come back in this game, and they get smoked, so they save Anthony Davis and LeBron James. It's tough to say you can do that being down 0-2 but heading back, but I almost think like the Lakers might be resigned to, all right, well, we're down 0-2. We just better get that game in game number 3, or else we're probably looking at a sweep, or at least a gentleman sweep here. Now, let's move it over to the Garden, New York City center stage tonight. The Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks will tip at 7:30. The line opened up at FanDuel overnight at 5.5. Now we're seeing 6s pop up. Chris Haynes tweeted out just about 20 minutes ago, the Philadelphia 76ers have released an injury report. That's not really an injury here because we're waiting to see what's up with Joel Embiid, but it's Tyrese Maxey questionable with an illness. That never helps in a big game environment where you need to be all in and playing well in a lot of minutes for the Philadelphia 76ers to win. So maybe that's why that line is a little bit on the move. Total in this game listed at 206.5. I love the over in game number 1 here, which snuck over, even though some of these teams playing some questionable quarters here. It's still a low number overall, but the Knicks favored by 6, which means they got to win by a pretty good margin tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers, Davis.
Yeah, I don't care that Maxey is questionable. I would take the 6. I would take the money line for the 76ers. I just, I think the Knicks are actually very similar to some of these other teams we've been talking about, where the level that the Knicks can reach, they already reached it in the regular season. That is definitely not true of the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers really didn't have a settled rotation. And in fact, they didn't get into what is now their playoff rotation until the final week of the season. That includes Buddy Hield as the first guy off the bench in those Embiid lineups. And people, Buddy Hield is like such a maligned player. He is a great shooter. I mean, he is a very, very good shooter, not a particularly great defensive player, but the Maxey, Oubre, Hield, literally anybody, Joel Embiid lineups should be very good. I saw a great quote the other day that whatever Tobias Harris is doing to the 76ers organization is way worse than what Jonte Porter did to the Raptors organization. And it's so true. I mean, I feel bad for Tobias Harris, but he's such a symptom of people just being sick of the 76ers not being able to get over the mountain in the NBA playoffs. And I think some super small lineups, especially when it's Hart and DiVincenzo in the front court, I kind of like those. Like anytime Anunoby is off the court, why not try and go super small, Nick Nurse? I like that idea.
Like if Tobias Harris made $8 million a year, nobody would ever pick on Tobias Harris, but essentially he is a max contract player doing absolutely nothing out there. And also when you're a max guy, I'm the second or third cut, you should be wide open every single play doing whatever you want, which means you should be 8 of 10 from the floor every night because nobody's paying attention to you. Never been able to seem to put that together. Let me ask you this question here on the Sixers and the Knicks game. If we do get a maxi that's limited tonight and we're not playing, are all bets off tonight? Like there's no way the Sixers can win and go into the Garden and handle their business? Or do both of those guys, meaning Joel Embiid and Maxey, have to bring their A game tonight for you, Davis?
No, because it's all about the big fella. If the big fella has a Joel Embiid game, 42 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, and the starting lineup change, you're already playing 2 point guards because you're playing Lowry and Maxey together. So you just sub in Buddy Hield for Maxey, and you just hope to get a hot shooting night out of Oubre or out of Hield. Like it's all pretty simple, but it's heliocentric around Embiid. Embiid just has to have a great game, regardless of Maxey's status, or the 76ers are not winning.
He's listed as questionable tonight. He's probably going to suit up. We'll see what type of effort you get out of Joel Embiid. You don't want to go down 0-2. The Sixers know that, obviously, but that spread working now in the Knicks' way just because of that Maxey news. Orlando Magic, Cleveland Cavaliers, and some best bets coming up next right here on the early line.
Talked about the Otani story. This interpreter, Ipe, clearly was a problem gambler. I mean, he would be identified as that and beyond. Now, there are a lot of others that are out there.
The timing didn't seem great. It seemed slightly tone deaf in terms of, maybe now isn't the time to say it. But the sentiment itself, you have to agree with. There's only so much a sports betting company can do, right?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Throwbacks in white have now become the main uniforms in black and green as well. 4-game green.
Your contracts will be higher in 5 years because the ratings will be through the roof, people. Listen to me. Play games at 7 o'clock. Get more ratings. Make more money. It's simple, but somehow they're imbeciles that make this playoff schedule. I can't figure it out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
They're still the best. They're still the champs. Everyone wants to crown the Celtics the champions, but that's not the way it works. They got to beat them. And, they got to get through the East, which isn't going to be fun to begin with. Everyone thinks it's so automatic.
If it's just Boris is kind of losing his power, if whatever his tactics have been, yeah, move on.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Final segment of the day here on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159 on the SportsGrid Network. Davis and Donnie here on a Monday, bringing that heat. One more game to playoff preview tonight. 7 o'clock tip, 5:01, 5:02 on the rotation. That is the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Overnight lines here, Davis, 5.5. Today's line, still 5.5. No movement there. Total, though, 204.5 is an opening number, down to 203. Now, we're going to be going over some best bets in just a little bit. My best bet probably is going to this game, hint, hint. But how do you see this playing out here? The Cavs, just the better overall team. The Orlando Magic with that nice regular season, but when it's time to step up, they can't get it done. Or can we see the Magic cover and maybe win this basketball game?
Yeah, I'm not on the Magic here. The Magic already threw their wrinkle, which would be starting Jonathan Isaac and getting him to 28 minutes per game. They didn't even wait for game 2 to do that. They just did it in game 1. And it didn't work. You know, Mobley did what he needed to do. Jared Allen had a good game. The reason why you would throw Isaac in there is basically to erase those guys. It didn't work. Where do you get the scoring? I mean, I suppose Jalen Suggs probably is not going to just make 4 shots. If he comes closer to his seasonal averages, they probably get a little bit better. But it is as simple as the Cavaliers are just the much better team. Where they are weak is on the defensive end. They've not really found a salt. Like, really what's happened with the Cavs is Evan Mobley has stagnated in his development. He was awesome as a rookie and actually has honestly gotten worse as an NBA player since the regular season of his rookie year. And much more pressure on the Cavs, where the Cavs do not win this series. Coaches are getting fired. Players are getting traded. Like, it's like everyone is in trouble, you know, if they do not win this series. Whereas the Magic it's totally like they were supposed to be bad this year. They were supposed to be a lottery team. So It's kind of all gravy for them.
House money. By the way, of the 3 games tonight, Magic, Cavaliers, Sixers, Knicks, Lakers, Nuggets, which team is more likely to pull off the upset and also maybe a surprise tonight for you, Davis, between these 3 games?
I don't know if the 76ers are the team that is most likely to get an upset here on Monday. Yes. I mean, I feel pretty confident in that one. I don't think the Lakers have any chance. I definitely could see the Magic winning. You know, if the Magic just happen to randomly get a game where they make 40% of their 3-pointers, they probably run the Cavaliers out of the building because they are going to remain probably the second best defensive team or third best defensive team in the postseason behind the Celtics and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So they've got that going for them. But I would rank upset probability Sixers first, then Magic, then the Lakers.
All right, time for some best bets tonight. Now we got NHL hockey tonight. We got NBA action. We also got Major League Baseball. Davis, where are you going today to give the people something to chew on and maybe a little bit of more plus money in their back pocket?
I'm not giving them plus money. I'm not going to take the 76ers as my best bet because I would need to feel a little bit more assured in Maxi's availability. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take a favorite. I'm going to go Denver Nuggets -7 points over the Lakers. Last year in the postseason, game 2s after winning game 1, they covered the spread against the Timberwolves in game 2, covered the spread against the Suns by 10 points in game 2. Actually, in game 2 against the Lakers last year, they didn't cover the spread 108-103, but swept them. They're the much better team. I don't see an obvious adjustment here for the Lakers. So Nuggets -7 is my best bet tonight.
Yeah, I can't deny. Like, I actually think there's a really good chance that the Nuggets could win that game by 15-plus points tonight. I really do think that. And then the Lakers circle the wagons in game number 3 to try to climb back into that series. Now, I could go Major League Baseball tonight, which I'm going to have some RBI props later. It's an enjoyable card tonight. Hopefully, we get some hitting conditions to pay attention to. But I'm going to stick here with the NBA. 3 games on the card tonight. I'll be rooting on the Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Knicks. That's my squad. Hopefully, Maxey is healthy and so is Joel Embiid. But I'm going to go to that Magic Cavaliers game. I'm not going to lay the 5.5 points, but I saw enough out of game number 1 where you might legitimately again get 2 teams that don't get to 100 points. So I'm going to go under the 203 number, which is such a paltry one. Like, hey, look, it's 55-50 at the break. Well, they're way on pace one here to get over. I just don't see this type of being an offensive series, and I agree that price should be low. Now, it was close to me, Davis, that Sixers-Knicks game. If we didn't have any conclusions that Joel Embiid and or Maxey would be banged up and the illness tonight, I'd go right back on the over, which I hit from Friday as one of my best bets for the weekend here. But the 206.5, I think, has a legitimate chance to go over, but we do need to see Embiid and Maxey healthy. But for me, once again, it's going to be that Magic Cavaliers total, which I'm going to take at under 203. And look at it. 3 hours down, Davis. You energized? You ready to go? You want to do this again? No replay, right? Let's just go live.
Yeah, look, I got 3 more hours in me. I can talk more Rui Hachimura if that's what we need. We barely scratched the surface of the NFL draft. We're going to be back firing on the NFL draft tomorrow. I heard we were doing a whole hour on the NFL draft tomorrow.
Hour number 1, all draft tomorrow, according to Davis. Tune in to find out right here on the Early Line. Thanks for tuning in today. See ya.